Good people YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and I finally bought the Pelagos FXD Marine Nationale, which is a watch that I've been eyeing for a long time, especially as a 7.5-year-old owner. 7.5-year owner of a Pelagos 42. I'm not 7.5-year old. I'm not this many years old. And I've actually owned this watch now for 10 months. And a part of the reason why I haven't done a video on it yet was because I just wanted to enjoy the watch for myself for a while. And also because I've rewritten my notes and thoughts about this watch multiple times because I was actually absolutely ready to sell it within the first week of ownership. I mean, I got a sinking feeling the moment I put it on my wrist, thinking I just made the biggest mistake of my life. So in this video, I'm gonna do things a bit different. I'm gonna concentrate on why I bought this watch as a Pelagos 42 owner and why I chose the blue dial Marine Nationale version instead of the other variants, because by the time I got it, there were a whole bunch of variants, especially being a black dial guy, a lot more black dial versions. And finally, why it's been a roller coaster of emotions, during which I'll go over my two loves and essentially one hate about the FXD Marine Nationale. And that will include how this $9 strap from Amazon single-handedly saved this watch. Zero exaggeration. If I did not find this strap, I would have sold this watch within that first week. Oh, and also much love to Uncle Straps for sending me the awesome titanium bracelets for my Pelagos 42. And yes, they are compatible with the original clasp, if you're wondering. Anyways, let's get into it. So I got my Pelagos 42 way back in October 2017, and it was my second big boy watch after my Speedmaster. And ever since then, it's basically been my favorite watch, mainly because of the titanium bracelet and it's just the brutal clarity of the stark black and white dial and bezel. Then when the FXD was released, I knew that was super interesting, very special. But considering that I already loved my Pelagos so much and that I was a black dial guy and a bracelet guy and I didn't like NATOs and single pass straps anymore at that point, getting a blue dial FXD that doesn't have a bracelet and can only be ever worn on single pass straps made me not get it. And also, just like a small note, I didn't have $4,000 to spend on a very risky watch. So yeah, there's that too. But this thing stayed on my mind ever since because it's just so cool. And mainly it's just so unique in so many different ways with its countdown bezel, the titanium build, and obviously the FXD, meaning fixed bars, which in person look unlike anything I've seen before. Truly unique and special. And plus, since everything is loomed here and it's a fully graduated bezel, I knew that the loom on this would look crazy, and it really is stunning. I mean, it's very three-dimensional because the bezel is sloped, and obviously the clarity is perfect, the brightness is fantastic, it's all blue, pretty much perfection as far as loom goes. Then I finally came across a really good deal for $2,900 all in from a friend last August in 2024, and I thought that this is my chance, let's do it. So I did it, and like I said before, it was not smooth sailing after I got it, and I'll get into why the love and hate sections. But that begs the question, why did I specifically get the Marine Nationale version when there were so many other versions of the FXD at that point, including a US Navy one with a black dial? And that comes down to the Marine Nationale version having the bi-directional countdown bezel, which is something I've wanted back ever since I sold my Zen 104 years ago to my cousin. And I like the blue color here since it's darker and much more muted than the bright and saturated blue dial of the P42. And also it's just really cool knowing that the Marine Nationale version is actually being used as a tool for its intended purpose by the Marine Nationale. ID Guy made a fantastic video about his FXD Marine Nationale, so yeah, check that out if you want even more details about the history. And practically speaking, getting a blue dial Pelagos made sure that it wouldn't step on the toes of my black dial Pelagos 42. Although the wearing experience of the FXD is so different that even if I got the black dial version, it still would have been different enough. But even still, I'm glad that I got the Marine Nationale because the tone of the blue dial, again, is absolutely fantastic. Oh, and finally, another practical point, I have a 1.5-year-old niece and she likes to grab onto my watches and she can pull weirdly hard. So obviously, the only thing to do here in this situation is to get a watch with solid titanium bars to keep my watch safe from my niece's grip. So yeah, again, fit for purpose. I've owned dozens and dozens of watches over my 10+ years in the watch world, and there will always be watches that I don't fall in love with instantly after getting them. But there's always enough just to let me give it a chance, maybe see it in new lights, and tried some new straps on it. So by the time I actually got my FXD, I really loved it already. I tried it on at my AD multiple times, so I wasn't going into this completely blind, but the issue is that trying it on at an AD for just 15-20 minutes will never give you long-term impressions. And I don't really like the feeling of fabric on my wrist anymore, but the fabric Velcro strap of the FXD felt comfortable at the AD, so I was like, you know, maybe this is the one. But after wearing my FXD at home, it began to annoy me very, very quickly, almost instantly. And the feeling of this fabric on my wrist wasn't really that bad, but seeing the black Velcro at the bottom half of my watch and naturally not on the top half was irritating me visually, and I've never really been a fan of straps with lines on them. But, you know, not to worry, I can just pop it on a new strap. That's the glory of being FXD, right? The problem here was that, in general, NATO straps just don't feel right on my wrist for me. And also, because of the long lug to lug, if the NATO strap isn't particularly soft, it had a just weird bulge that would go out and then back into my wrist, which really bothered me. But I do have a fantastic elastic strap from Blue Shark, and that helped immensely, but it just simply wasn't enough visual mass at the top and bottom of the watch. And on any watch, I need to be able to see the strap or bracelet and see the continuation of the flow from the case. So that's why I generally prefer smaller watches, because I like to be able to see the strap or bracelet when it's on my wrist and not just straight just jutting down and only seeing the watch head. At this point, the writing was pretty much on the wall. I mean, how can I keep a watch that I hate wearing and I can't wear despite how cool, unbelievably cool the watch was itself? But after looking around on Amazon and literally looking for any 22mm single piece strap, I finally came across these Velcro straps marketed actually for smartwatches, and the look and fit was perfect. I mean, first it was a military green strap, and then I finally found this here Forever strap, and it's just the perfect shade of gray with a touch of blue. Absolutely spot on. So yeah, I mean, if I didn't find this strap here, I mean, I wouldn't have my FXD right now, and even more so because I found this absolutely perfect color. And I actually bought an extra pack of these straps just in case something happened to this strap. And before we start the wearing experience, here are the dimensions real quick so we know what we're dealing with, and because the dimensions play a role in the wearability naturally. The bezel width is actually 43mm because it goes beyond the case, and that makes the watch wear like a substantial watch, especially because of the visual lug to lug with a strap is 50mm. And usually I would have said that this would be better as a 40 or 41mm watch with 12mm lugs, and that would be undoubtedly very, very cool. But this size, especially with the strap, feels spot on because of its intended purpose, so I like it actually very much as is. Oh, and before I forget, the dial looks like it's right under the crystal, which gives the watch an almost oil-filled look like my Zen U50 Hydro. But I love looking at the dial from an angle because at that point you can really see the three-dimensionality of the indices. Really, really fantastic. And since I mentioned the bezel action is very refined, and it's bidirectional since it's a countdown bezel used for navigation, not for timing dives. So in real life, I find this much more useful because I can take the shortest route to mark a time, and if I miss my mark by just one click, I don't have to go all the way around and the potential miss it again. I can just go back one click. And then also countdown is really nice for, I don't know, like cooking things or just timing things, I guess. Now, compared to the Pelagos 42, it is much thinner on paper, 12.7mm versus 14.2mm, and on the wrist, it is also very, very noticeable. I mean, not having it look like it's towering over my wrist is a big plus point, and it adds to the overall comfort of the watch when it's on the wrist. Overall, it's such a comfortable watch even without this strap. I mean, the strap takes it to the next level, and that's down to the infinite adjustability because I can get the perfect level of tightness depending on how much my wrist is expanded or not expanded. And also because of the construction, there's just about enough stretch that I can get a very, very snug fit without making it feel very tight and suffocating, which is something that I don't like happening. And also, that's coming in very, very useful now that it's summer. But the actual watch head is also part of the comfort. Since it's titanium, it's naturally much lighter than it would be in steel, but I actually wouldn't consider this to be a light watch, all things considered, because it's 74 grams, the watch head, and that puts it right in line with a lot of my Seiko SPB divers, which are nice and hefty as well. And that's compared to most of my titanium watch heads that come in around the 50 gram range and sometimes the low 60 gram range. And part of that is because of the steel case back. I don't know why they put a steel case back on this watch and my Pelagos 42. They rectified the situation by putting a titanium case back on the new Pelagos Ultra, and I think also the Pelagos 39 has a titanium case back, but yeah, I don't know why. But anyway, seeing this on the wrist is such a special experience because I'm seeing such a unique watch, and in many ways it's my Pelagos 42 but perfected, which I'll explain in the next section. But I'm just so glad that it looks and feels so different compared to my Pelagos 42, so no overlap, and I'm getting two very unique experiences, but experiences based off of the same unbelievably tool-tastic experience, if that makes sense. And since I purchased this watch to use, it came with quite a few scratches, which initially annoyed me a little bit, you know, because I like pristine watches so that all the scratches that I get on it are my scratches. But here, I like seeing the scratches because it adds to the tool watch nature of it, but also it takes the pressure off of me. I don't have to subconsciously worry about the watch. Since the scratches are already here, I can just feel free to just use the watch as I want to and without any issues or any potential underlying worries about loss of value and things like that, even though I don't think I'm going to be selling this anytime soon, but again, no one can know. And now onto the looks of this watch, and I think they're just about perfect for the type of watch this is. The darker tone of titanium is awesome. I'm a huge fan of titanium in general, and also it's fully matte alongside everything on the dial and the bezel. The white on this watch is stark white for optimal legibility, which for me is basically a requirement for a pure tool watch like this. And because we got a flat sapphire crystal, the clarity of the dial is spectacular. You can read it in almost any angle, and the proportions of the hands and indices and all the markings are also spot on, which help make this the most legible watch I own, just a bit over my standard Pelagos 42 because of the fully graduated bezel. Again, exactly what I want from a tool watch, no distraction. And while we're at it, the bezel grip is a bit chunkier than the bezel grip on the Pelagos 42, which makes the bezel easier to turn and also even easier to turn when I'm wearing gloves, which makes me feel special. But of course, we have to talk about those FXD bars because it's not a standard welded set of bars, which basically look like spring bars that can't move. We've got solid titanium bars completely integrated with the case, and the bars themselves look so sculpted. I wish I had a strap that I could take on and off more often, just so I can see the watch head on its own more often. Finally, the color of the watch. The muted blue is a sight to behold because it's a blue that doesn't look like a stylistic flourish. I know that some people will prefer the brighter, more saturated blue of the standard Pelagos 42, and while that is a really great color, this muted blue for me is more dailyable, and it fits the military tool watch purpose of this watch. So yeah, honestly, no notes from me here. So there you have it. Let me know what you think about the FXD down in the comments as always. And until the next video, good day.